I couldn't think of an introduction for this video, so I decided to shout out an artist that I really like. He's called PeekingBoo, and this is his logo. Isn't it adorable? Yes, it is. I'm going to provide a link down below so you can go check him out in the description. Say bye, PeekingBoo! Anyway, time to start the episode. Hello everyone, thank you for sticking around after that interesting little introduction. But yeah, seriously, do go check out PeekingBoo. I really like his stuff. He does a lot of games, and he also does animated pictures as well as art. Go check it out. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the Christmas episode leading into Season 7 of Doctor Who and Episode 70 of Discovering Doctor Who, which is on the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. And I mean, the references for Chronicles of Narnia are obviously there because, you know, you have the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I actually found myself kind of having to not think the Doctor, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I almost kind of did that earlier, but I'm doing okay, not losing my mind. But yeah, let's get right into it, talking about some of my favorite parts of this episode. Number one of which is the fantasy and science mix. Now, I don't know if this is a major issue with a lot of people, but I do know some people that they really like science fiction, but they can't stand fantasy. Or they love fantasy and can't stand science fiction. So in the, I think it used to be more common that the two got mixed, but it seems like anymore that if those two sort of combine, it's met with a lot of resistance. And honestly, it's something that I really like, I really appreciate. No matter what the medium, be it anime or in movies and books and comics, I love a good mix of some fantasy beyond just, you know, the Lord of the Rings style kind of thing, but, you know, just fantasy, you know, where you use your imagination to create the worlds. And, well, it's like, you know, this episode didn't really go that far with it. I definitely really like the way that it sort of emulated that feel of Chronicles of Narnia. I mean, the most obvious part of it being the present box that led into, you know, the to the alternate planet in the future, or the like snowy tree planet in the future. And I mean, while that scene was going on, when the little boy, what's his name, Cyril, yeah, when he crawls through, I mean, if you've seen the first, not Lord of the Rings, if you've seen the first Chronicles of Narnia movie, you definitely get that vibe from it. And, oh, before I go on, I do want to say that Awesome, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right, but Awesome mentioned that, you know, or asked if I had read the books, Chronicles of Narnia, or seen any of the movies, and said that's good to go into this episode with the mindset of, you know, that's kind of what it's all about. And he's right to a point. I don't feel like you have to have that completely in mind to appreciate the episode, but I'll touch on that a little bit later. Anyway, back to my main point. Yeah, I just really like the mix of fantasy and the science fiction mix. I mean, most of the science fiction obviously coming from the fact that the Doctor uses the TARDIS's technology to, you know, send them to the future and to the other planet. And then all the other stuff that has to do with it, like, you know, the satellites that create acid rain and all that. Just, I found that to be interesting. And again, it's just a mix of things that we don't get as often as I would like, but I enjoyed. Now, moving on, my second favorite part of this episode, the caretaker called the Doctor. And I don't care what you say, I would say that the Doctor is honestly the best part of this episode by far. And just pretty much every scene he was in was excellent, especially when the family comes to that old house and he's showing them around, and when he shows the kids their room and they're just like, you know, where are the beds? Well, I had to make some sacrifices, but who needs beds when you have hammocks? And I don't know, I found all of that to be lots of fun, really adorable, and just a really good showing from Matt Smith in this episode. Now, my third and final favorite part of this episode was the design of the Wood King and Queen, or at least that's what I assume they're called because I found a few different possibilities online. But yeah, the Wood King and Queen. I really liked their design, and the fact that, at least from what I could tell, when it came to CG, the only thing that was used computer graphics wise was when the characters blinked, which only happened like 2, maybe 3 times. Otherwise, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was people in a costume and it looked real. So yeah, I really appreciated that, and I just really like the design. It's nothing outlandish, it's nothing outrageous, but it was well done, and it had a simplicity to it that made it seem real, I guess you would say. Made it seem more organic as wood. Yeah, I guess that's the right way to put it. Alright, now moving on, time to get into my annoyances with this episode. The first of which, and it's probably the biggest issue with this entire episode, the acting. Now, not to say no one on this episode could act, because they could, but there were a lot of points where they were really, it felt like they were really hamming it up, especially when those soldiers, or whatever they were, beamed down to the planet and, you know, confronted Madge, the mom. And just a bunch of other things. Honestly, I feel like the only, other than the Doctor, other than Matt Smith, the only truly consistent good actor in this episode was the girl that played Lily, the daughter. Otherwise, just any of the human actors, they might have been okay at times, but then there would be points where it was just really hokey and kind of cringeworthy at times. So it's like, yeah, the acting was one of the biggest issues for me in this episode. Again, other than the Doctor and Lily, who both of them did a good... The Doctor did great, and the girl did a good job, in my opinion. There was no lines that she delivered that made me cringe, really. They all felt pretty natural from her. And now, my second annoyance with this episode. The ending was a major cop-out, in my opinion. Now, I mean, the same could be said for closing time, where at the end, you know, obviously Craig doesn't get turned into a Cyberman. It's like, you know, it can definitely be argued that that was a cop-out, but I don't know, for this one I feel like it was going toward this real emotional moment, like this really strong emotional segment right at the end, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, the dad's still alive. The reason he disappeared is because of following light and stuff. You know, the timey-wimey, humany, woomany, this stuff. But yeah, it's just the ending felt like a cop-out, although the logic that they employ in this episode does make sense. Now, I mean, because an argument could be made that, you know, it's similar to the way that Father's Day was working out when Rose, you know, saved her father in the past and then created that alternate timeline, basically. But in this case, no one intentionally changed anything. The Doctor didn't, like, he had no real part in it. It was basically just, they were flying the craft through the time stream, and then the father followed them. Now, how that worked exactly, I don't know. There's a lot of issue with logic in this episode, but, you know, it's not something that the Doctor or anyone really directly affected. It's something that, given the logic of the episode, as loose as it may be, does make sense in a way. But other than that, despite the logic, it still, for me, feels like a major cop-out that could have had just a nice, you know, sad, but good, strong ending, I feel. Like, you know, there could have been a solidification in the relationship with the kids and the mother through the loss of the father, but no, that's neither here nor there. Moving on, my third and final annoyance with this episode, it was just pretty boring. I mean, especially at first, and I didn't even mention this, the prequel, you know, led up to what seemed like a pretty exciting part, and then even the beginning was pretty funny and interesting, admittedly. But then as the episode moves along, it's like, we go from this high octane to just like 5 miles per hour, or kilometers per hour, if you prefer. It just gets really slow, and yeah, I don't know, it lost a lot of steam that it never completely picks up, or never completely picks back up, until the very end segment. I guess I should include that in the favorites too, but like the little end segment with the pawns, I really loved that. But otherwise, just for the most part, the episode was boring, and yeah, I don't know. I'll explain more of my thoughts on the boringness when I do like my final thoughts. But moving on from there, it's time for my song of the episode, and good lord, there were a lot of songs. Looking at the soundtrack, there were so many songs, because apparently they split the album into two, like one for this Christmas special, and then one for the next one, which is apparently called The Snowman. And there were a lot of songs, and overall, I have to say that the first one, Geronimo, is my favorite song from this episode. It starts off the episode on a great note, and it's just an overall really good song. There may be a few on the soundtrack that I could listen to over and over, but that's one that I could definitely just, hit replay on over and over from my perspective. But moving on from there, it is time for my quote of the episode, and this right here is one of the moments that made me appreciate this episode, the fact that it actually existed. This quote right here, and it comes from the Doctor in response to Madge, who says that she shouldn't get mad at the kids because like she hasn't opened up to the kids that their father had died or he had disappeared. And I'm not even sure that the Doctor knows that specifically at that point, but the quote from the Doctor is this: "Because every time you see them happy, you remember how sad they're going to be, and it breaks your heart. Because what's the point in them being happy now if they're going to be sad later? The answer is, of course, because they're going to be sad later." And I'm stumbling over my words here. Just that quote right there, it's very simple, but it's heartfelt, and I don't know, it's kind of a frame of mind I take when it comes to being with people that, I love, and I either have to break bad news to them, or, we're in a sad situation, someone's passed away, and I do what I can to cheer them up, however I can, have them, do my best to have them be happy before having to confront, whatever's coming and for the sadness to set in. That quote right there just really struck a chord with me, and I just found it absolutely beautiful. So yeah, that was definitely the quote of the episode for me. It's like, and you might find this strange, but one of my favorite quotes, as simple as it is, of Doctor Who overall, I think. So yeah. Now moving on from there, it's time for my final overall thoughts of this episode. It's flawed for sure. It had a lot of boring moments, but I feel like as a Christmas episode, it's definitely one of the weaker Christmas episodes, but at the same time, it had this really nice contemporary feel that I felt like, a family could just, get together on Christmas and watch it first thing in the morning, and it would be, something nice to wake up to. It would be something nice and overall peaceful, and just it has a nice happy ending. Despite the fact that I feel it's a cop-out, it has a nice happy ending. It does stray away from, like, the risks that the show has been taking the last few seasons with Moffat in charge, admittedly, which, can definitely be an issue, and the only real gimmick it goes for is the relation to Chronicles of Narnia with the, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. But overall, it's definitely, just come out and say it. I feel like it definitely has its good points overall, but on the most part, it's just not that great of an episode. I might consider watching it again sometime because of the fact that it does have some of those really nice moments. And I think it's an episode that Jill might even like. She didn't watch this one with me, but I think there are elements of it she might really like, especially once we get closer to Christmas time. Even though it's still the first half of the year right now. But yeah, it's just, I would say it's below average overall. It's like I said, it's one of the weaker Christmas episodes or Christmas specials that has its good points, but overall just not that great. So yeah, there you go, everyone. And I mean, going on from there, I do have... wait, actually, no, stumbling over my words again. I don't have a question for what's going to come. Instead, I'm only going to tell you this. I have an announcement that's going to be coming soon. I can't say it right now. Hopefully, I'll be able to say it in Friday's episode, which will be on Pond Life. I guess it's a series of mini episodes. But yeah, just be looking forward to an announcement. It's going to affect Papa Kenn Media overall, really, especially in the short term. But yeah, just please do be looking forward to that. If the announcement can't be said in the next episode, it'll be in the episode after that. But yeah, I'll try and get that announcement to you all as quickly as I can. In the meantime, everyone, please do let me know, some more of your thoughts. Did you rewatch this episode and maybe your opinion changed? I know that for the most part, the overall consensus was that the episode sucks or they just don't like it. There were some people that said that they did like it, or, it was harmless, basically, which I would argue on the harmless side. But just please do let me know what you thought of this episode, why. It's like, and even if you didn't like it, try and find some positive aspects. And if you think it's just a great episode, I don't think that's very likely, but if you love the episode, what are some negatives that, you can admit were there, but maybe didn't bother you as much? And as always, like what maybe were your favorite quotes, your favorite music of the episode, just let me know what you all think. And yeah, until next time, everyone, or until Friday, hopefully, I'm Papa Kenn, and I'll see you for Pond Life. Until then, Alonzi! Seriously, do go check out PeekingBoo. He's adorable. Ow. Ow! Stop it. Ow! Peeking, no!